again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on Frederica Whitfield. All right, we're following new developments this afternoon. The committee's investigating Russia's involvement in the U.S. election. Also, will look into President Trump's unfounded claims that President Obama tapped his phone. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes issuing this statement saying, quote, the committee will make inquiries into whether the government was conducting surveillance activities on any political party's campaign officials or surrogates, and we will continue to investigate this issue if the evidence warrants it, end quote. Senate Intel Chairman Richard Burr echoed his sentiments, saying this just moments ago, quote, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence will follow the evidence where it leads, and we will continue to be guided by the intelligence and facts as we compile our findings, end quote. CNN White House correspondent Athena Jones is near Mar-a-Lago, where the president is this weekend, and CNN crime and justice producer Shimon Prokopez is also following the story from New York. Good to see both of you. Let me begin with you, Athena.
Hi, Fred. That's right. After those unsubstantiated allegations made on Twitter yesterday morning from the president, we asked the White House to provide more information, to provide evidence to back up those claims. We did not receive that evidence, but we do have the statement that was put out this morning by Press Secretary Sean Spicer. I'll read to you part of it. He said, President Donald J. Trump is requesting that as part of their investigation into Russian activity, the Congressional Intelligence Committees exercise their oversight authority to determine whether executive branch investigative powers were abused in 2016. Now, Spicer went on to say that neither the White House nor the president is going to be commenting any further on this matter until such oversight is conducted. I think it's important to note, Fred, that these are allegations that President Obama's spokesperson has vigorously denied. Other former senior officials said that there were no such wiretaps, as have other officials. And so one of the big questions here is, where did the president get this information? Florida Senator Marco Rubio, Republican, who is on the Senate Intelligence Committee, talked about that this morning on State of the Union. Listen.
I'm not sure what it is he is talking about. Perhaps the president has information that is not yet available to us or to the public. And if it's true, obviously we're going to find out very quickly. And if it isn't, then obviously he'll have to explain what he meant by it. So I'm not sure what the genesis of that statement was, but well, I imagine we're going to learn more about it here over the next few days, one way or the other.
And another Republican on that committee also said that she expects, this is Maine Senator Susan Collins, a Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee, said that she expects the president is going to want to provide that committee with whatever evidence he has. But by asking for this investigation, the White House is shifting the burden of proof. And by saying that no one's going to comment any further, it seems a way of saying that they're not going to answer any questions about just what evidence the president has. But I will assure you, Fred, that all journalists are going to continue to ask for that evidence.
Of course. All right. Athena Jones, thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right. A former senior White House official is also disputing the president's claims, telling CNN that they're not aware of wiretaps related to a criminal investigation of then-candidate Donald Trump by the U.S. Justice Department. That backs up former National Intelligence Director James Clapper's remarks this morning that none of the agencies he oversaw, including the FBI, sought to wiretap Trump.
I will say that for the part of the national security apparatus that I oversaw as DNI, there was no such wiretap activity mounted against the president-elect at the time, or as a candidate, or against his campaign. I can't speak for other Title III authorized entities in the government or a state or local entity.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if the FBI, for instance, had a FISA court order of some sort for a surveillance, would that be information you would know or not know?
Yes.
You would be told this?
I would know that.
If there was a FISA court order
Yes.
on something like this?
Something like this, absolutely.
And at this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists?
I can deny it.
There is no FISA court order?
Not to my knowledge.
Of anything at Trump Tower?
No.
All right, CNN's Shimon Prokopez is also following that part of the story for us. Shimon, what more have you learned?
Well, we've learned that not only was there no FISA sort of eavesdropping warrant issued by a judge, we've also learned that there were no criminal wiretaps. It's sort of these Title III wiretaps that Clapper there was talking about. up and down the FBI and at other law enforcement agencies, really no one knows what Donald Trump was talking about. And going forward, I think, they're going to look to try and see, perhaps maybe there's something they missed. But right now, there's no indication that anyone in law enforcement was eavesdropping on Donald Trump. Yesterday, I talked to a former pretty high-ranking official who had direct knowledge of the investigations surrounding the hacking and anything else that may have had to do with Russia. And that official told me that it was complete nonsense. It was not true. Certainly, people within the Justice Department, the upper places of the Justice Department, the senior levels of the Justice Department, would have to authorize such activity on the federal side. And really, no one knows what he's talking about, because they're just saying this just did not happen.
All right, Shimon Prokupecz. All right, thank you so much for breaking that down. Let's talk more about this now with CNN national security analyst Steve Hall. He is also a retired CIA chief of Russian operations, and Tom Fuentes, a CNN senior law enforcement analyst and former assistant director of the FBI. Good to see both of you, gentlemen.
Hi, Frederick.
All right, so Steve, no sign of a criminal wiretapping warrant, not by the Justice Department, not a FISA court. You just heard our Shimon Prokupecz. Is there any other way to go about surveilling an American citizen?
Not that I'm aware of. And, Jim Clapper is absolutely right. He would have known had there been any FISA warrants outstanding. The F in FISA, of course, stands for foreign. So they're looking for somebody who is acting as an agent of a foreign power. And when you're trying to intercept electronic communication, that's really the only way to do it that I'm aware of. And, there's a really high bar for that. There's a lot of work that has to go into something like that.
So then, Steve, would it be a crime or an offense by the President of the United States to claim that there was wiretapping conducted with certainty by his predecessor and it cannot be substantiated by these other means? Is that a crime if it turns out indeed it's false based on what the president said?
Well, not being a law enforcement officer, I'll probably defer to Tom and others to talk about the criminality. I can tell from the intelligence perspective, it's very strange. The former DNI says he was not aware of it. He would be aware of it. Whether something was going on, off the books or something like that. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but we just don't know. And we don't know so much that this yet again underlines the need for an independent, investigation into all of this.
So, Tom, how would you answer that?
Well, if someone was conducting a wiretap and it was off the books or not authorized by a FISA or a criminal Title III electronic surveillance authority, that'd be a felony for anybody to be involved in conducting the wiretap. As far as the president now saying that there was one, well, it depends on who told him that there was one, how he found out, and that. So it's possible.
And if he just got it wrong and said that definitively, is that a problem? Is that criminal?
Well, it's
a
problem, but I don't know that it's a criminal problem to say that there was one if there wasn't. That's different than conducting electronic surveillance and not being authorized to do it.
Mm-hmm. So Tom, if there is a conducting of surveillance of anyone who is associated with Russia, because we know that Intel has said they certainly are watching, Russian diplomats, et cetera, in this country, and if that Russian diplomat is associating with a U.S. citizen and is caught up in that kind of surveillance, how does it work generally? Do notes, or surveillance kind of stop when they identify a U.S. citizen is involved and then pick up where, communication continues with a Russian or somebody else who, is a foreigner who is being watched on U.S. soil?
Well, there are many foreigners being watched on U.S. soil. Some are engaged in espionage and others might be, the possibility of it. I'm not going to go into the details of who all would be under FISA, but there's a difference between having a FISA authority to intercept calls to certain officials at their embassy and conducting FISA coverage in the Trump Tower. That's a whole different thing because you're targeting U.S. citizens. You're targeting U.S. citizens, not just the fact that the Russian ambassador might visit once every they come in there. So, if you were going by that, you'd have FISA coverage in every Senate and congressional office on the Hill and everywhere else in town because the people that are here doing these activities are in many cases dual diplomats and intelligence officers. So I don't believe that that's going on. But yes, it would be, the possibility.
So then, Tom, how would it be explained that reportedly there are transcripts of conversations involving the Russian ambassador and members of Trump's campaign? How would those transcripts be collected if there isn't some sort of surveillance or even, warrants that may have been
I didn't
granted?
say there wasn't surveillance. I was saying that if they were covering the Russian ambassador or some other members of his diplomatic team who are also identified as actually being intelligence officers under diplomatic cover, that if they were being surveilled and they were contacted by American citizens, then the American citizens would be inadvertently intercepted as well. And don't forget, part of the reason for having this type of coverage is that you could have American citizens that maybe they're employed by the military or U.S. law enforcement or intelligence going to those officials offering their services, that you could have people trying to commit treason and fall into the net of someone else who is under FISA coverage. So yes, you could have that possibility happen. It doesn't mean that the American citizen was targeted in the first place. It just means that he fell into the net.
Okay, and as we're talking, we are looking at Air Force One there in West Palm Beach. We understand that President Trump will be leaving his winter White House and returning back to Washington. Again, all of these questions, however, don't end there. We're really just at the tip of the iceberg of so many of these questions surrounding the ongoing investigations and now newer investigations that are being launched there on Capitol Hill and by the urging of the White House, might we add. All right, Steve Hall, Tom Fuentes, good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And of course, we'll continue to monitor the scheduled departure of Air Force One there from West Palm Beach, Florida, back to Washington. We'll have much more right after this.
An unlimited data plan is only as good as the network it's on. And Verizon has been ranked #1 for the 7th time in a row by RootMetrics.
Hey, what's RootMetrics?
It's the nation's largest independent study, and it ranked Verizon #1 in call, text, data, speed, and reliability.
Do they get a trophy?
Not that I know of, but you get unlimited